Hi, this is Sheree, and today we're reading chapter 26. Let's see. The centipede, who began dancing wildly around the deck during the song, had suddenly gone too close to the downward curving edge of the peach, and for 3 awful seconds he stood teetering on the brink, swinging his legs frantically in circles in an effort to stop himself from falling over backwards into space. But before anyone could reach him, down he went. He gave a shriek of terror and he fell, and the others, rushing to the side and peering over, saw the poor long body trembling over and getting smaller and smaller until it was out of sight. "Silkworm!" cried James. "Quick, start spinning!" The silkworm sighed, for she was still very tired from spinning all the silk for the seagulls, but she did as she was told. "I'm going down after him," cried James, grabbing the silk string as it started coming out of the silkworm and tying it around his waist. "The rest of you hold on to the silkworm so I don't pull her over with me, and later, if you feel 3 tugs on the string, start pulling me up again." He jumped and went down, tumbling after the centipede, down, down, down towards the sea below, and you can imagine how quickly the silkworm had to spin to keep up with the speed of his fall. "We'll never see either of them again," cried the ladybug. Oh dear, just when we were all starting to be so happy too. Miss Spider, the glowworm, and the ladybug all began to cry. So did the earthworm. "I don't care a bit about the centipede," the earthworm sobbed, "but I really did love that little boy." Very softly, the old green grasshopper started to play the funeral march on his violin, and by the time he had finished, everyone, including himself, was in a flood of tears. Suddenly, there came 3 sharp tugs on the rope. "Pull!" shouted the old green grasshopper. "Everyone get behind me and pull!" There was about a mile of string to be hauled in, but they all worked like mad, and in the end, over the side of the peach, there appeared a dripping wet James with a dripping wet centipede clinging to him tightly with all 42 of his legs. "He saved me," gasped the centipede. "He swam around in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean until he found me." "My dear boy," the old green grasshopper said, patting James on his back, "I do congratulate you." "My boots!" cried the centipede. "Just look at my precious boots. They're ruined by the water." "Be quiet," the earthworm said. "You are lucky to be alive." "Are we still going up and up?" asked James. "We certainly are," answered the old green grasshopper, "and it's beginning to get dark." "I know. It'll soon be night." "Why don't we go down below and keep warm till tomorrow morning?" asked the Miss Spider. "No," the green grasshopper said. "I think it would be very unwise. It will be safer if we stay up here through the night and keep watch. If anything happens, we shall be ready for it." Chapter 27. James Henry Trotter and his companions crossed close to the top of the peach as the night began closing in around them. Clouds like mountains towered high above their heads on all sides, mysterious, menacing, and overwhelming. Gradually it grew darker and darker. Then a pale 3/4 moon came out over the tops of the clouds, and it cast an eerie light all over the whole scene. The giant peach swayed gently from side to side as it floated along, and the hundreds of silky white strings going up from the stem were beautiful in the moonlight. So also was a great flock of seagulls overhead. There was not a sound anywhere. Traveling upon the peach was not in the least like traveling on an airplane. The airplanes come clattering and roaring through the sky, and whatever might be lurking secretly up there in the great clouds goes running for cover as it approaches. That is why people who travel in airplanes never see anything. But the peach, the peach was soft, stealthy traveler, making no sound at all as it floated along, and several times during the long, silent night, high over the middle of the ocean, in the middle of the moonlight, James and his friends saw things that no one had ever seen before. Once they drifted silently past a massive white cloud. They saw on the top of it was a group of strange, tall, wispy-looking things that were about twice the size of ordinary men. They were not easily to see at first because they were almost white as the cloud itself. But as the peach sailed closer, it became obvious that these things were actually living creatures. Tall, wispy, wrath-like, shadow white creatures who looked as though they were made out of a mixture of cotton wool and candy floss with thin white hairs. "Ooh," the ladybug said, "I don't like this at all." "Shh," whispered James back. "Don't let them hear you. They must be cloudmen." "Cloudmen?" they murmured, huddling close together. "Oh, my dear, oh, my dear." "I'm glad I'm blind I can't see them," the earthworm said, "or I'll probably scream." "I hope they don't turn around and see us," Miss Spider stammered. "Do you think they'll eat us?" the earthworm asked. "They would eat you," the centipede answered, grinning. "They would cut you up like a salami and eat you in thin slices." The poor earthworm began to quiver all over with fright. "But what are they doing?" the old green grasshopper whispered. "I don't know," James asked softly. "Let's watch and see." Now the cloudmen were standing in a group, and they were doing something peculiar with their hands. First they would reach out all at once and grab handfuls of clouds. Then they would roll these handfuls of clouds with their fingers until they turned into what looked like large white marbles. Then they would toss the marbles to one side and quickly grab more bits of clouds and start all over again. It was all very silent and mysterious. The piles of marbles beside them kept growing larger and larger, and soon there was a truckload of them. "They must be absolutely mad," the centipede said. "There's nothing to be frightened of here." "Be quiet, you pests," the earthworm whispered. "We shall be eaten if they see us." But the cloudmen were much too busy with what they were doing to have noticed a great peach floating silently behind them. Then the watchers on the peach saw one of the cloudmen raise his long, wispy arms above his head, and they heard him shout, "All right, boys, that's enough. Get the shovels." And all the other cloudmen immediately let out a strange, high-pitched woof of joy and started jumping up and down and waving their arms in the air. They then picked up the enormous shovels and rushed over to the pile of marbles and began to shoving them down over the side of the cloud into space. "Down they go," they chanted as they worked. "Down they go, hail and snow, freezes and sneezes as noses will blow." "It's hailstorms," whispered James excitedly. "They're making hailstorms, and now they're shoveling them over to the people in the world below." "Hailstorms?" the centipede said. "That's ridiculous. It's summertime. You don't have hailstones in the summertime." "They're practicing for winter," James told him. "I don't believe it," shouted the centipede, raising his voice. "Shh!" the others whispered, and James said softly, "For heaven's sake, centipede, don't make so much noise." The centipede roared with laughter. "Those imbeciles can't hear anything," he cried. "They're deaf as a doorknob. You watch." And before anyone could stop him, he cupped his front feet to his mouth and was yelling at the cloudmen as loud as he could. "Idiots! Nincompoops! Half-wits! Blubberheads! What on earth do you think you're doing over there?" The effect was immediate. The cloudmen jumped around as if they had been stung by wasps, and then they saw the great golden peach floating past them, not 50 yards away in the sky, and they gave a yelp of surprise, and they dropped their shovels to the ground. And there they stood, with the moonlight gleaming down over them, absolutely motionless, like a group of tall, white, hairy statues staring and staring at the giant fruit as it went sailing by. The passengers on the fruit, except the centipede, sat frozen with terror, looking back at the cloudmen and wondering what was going to happen next. "Now you've done it, you lonesome pest," whispered the earthworm to the centipede. "I am not frightened of them," shouted the centipede, "and I shall show everybody once again that he wasn't." He stood up with his full height, staring, dancing about, and making insulting signs at the cloudmen with all 42 of his legs. This eventually infuriated the cloudmen beyond belief. All at once they spun around and grabbed their great handfuls of hailstones and rushed to the edge of the cloud and started throwing them at the peach, shrieking with fury all the time. "Look out!" cried James. "Quick, lie down, lie flat on the deck." It was lucky they did. The large hailstones can hurt you as much as a rock or a lump of dead lead if it was thrown hard enough. And my goodness, how these cloud men could throw. The hailstones came whizzing through the air like bullets in from a machine gun, and James could hear them smashing against the side of the peach and burying themselves in the peach's flesh with a horrible squelching noises. Plop, 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 and then ping, 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 as it bounced off poor Ladybug's shell, and because she couldn't lie flat like the others. And then crack, as one of them hit the centipede right in the nose, and crack again as the other one hit him someplace else. Oh, he cried, oh, stop, stop, stop! But the cloudmen had no intention of stopping. James could see them rushing on the cloud like a lot of huge hairy ghosts, picking up hailstones from the pile and dashing to the edge of the cloud, hurling the hailstones at the peach, dashing back again to get more. And then when the pile of stones was gone, they simply grabbed handfuls of clouds and made as many more as they wanted, and much bigger now, some of them as big as cannonballs. Quickly, cried James, down the tunnel, or we'll all get wiped out. There was a rush to the tunnel entrance, and half a minute later, everybody was safely downstairs inside the Stone of the Peach, trembling with fright and listening to the noise of the hailstones as it came crashing against the side of the peach. I'm a wreck, groaned the centipede. I'm wounded all over. Well, it serves you right, said the earthworm. Would somebody kindly look to see if my shell is cracked? The ladybug said. Give us some light, shouted the old green grasshopper. I can't, wailed the glowworm. I've broken my bulb. Well, put in another one, the centipede said. Be quiet for a moment, said James. Listen, I do believe they're not hitting us anymore. They stopped talking and listened. Yes, the noise had ceased. The hailstones were no longer smashing against the peach. Oh, we must have left him behind. The seagulls must have pulled us away out of danger. Hooray! Let's go up and see. Cautiously, with James going first, they all climbed back up the tunnel. James poked his head out and looked around. It's all clear, he said. I can't see them anywhere. And that's the end of chapter 27. Next time, we'll read chapter 28. Thank you and goodbye.